Reasons to stay alive. Number 1. You are on another planet. No one understands what you are going through, but actually, they do. You don't think they do because the only reference point is yourself. You have never felt this way before, and the shock of the descent is traumatizing you. But others have been here. You are in a dark, dark land with a population of millions. Number 2. Things aren't going to get worse. You want to kill yourself. That is as low as it gets. There is only upward from here. Number 3. You hate yourself. That is because you are sensitive. Pretty much every human could find a reason to hate themselves if they thought about it as much as you did. We're all total bastards, us humans, but also totally wonderful. Number 4. So what, you have a label? Depressive. Everyone would have a label if they asked the right professional. Number 5. That feeling you have, that everything is going to get worse, is just a symptom. Number 6. Minds have their own weather systems. You are in a hurricane. Hurricanes run out of energy eventually. Hold on. Number 7. Ignore stigma. Every illness had stigma once. We fear getting ill, and fear tends to lead to prejudice before information. Polio used to be erroneously blamed on poor people, for instance, and depression is often seen as a weakness or personality failing. Number 8. Nothing lasts forever. This pain won't last. The pain tells you it will last. Pain lies. Ignore it. Pain is a debt paid off with time. Number 9. Minds move. Personalities shift. To quote myself from the Humans, your mind is a galaxy, more dark than light, but the light makes it worthwhile. Which is to say, don't kill yourself, even when the darkness is total. Always know that life is not still. Time is space. You are moving through that galaxy. Wait for the stars. Number 10. You will one day experience joy that matches this pain. You will cry euphoric tears at the Beach Boys. You will stare down at a baby's face as she lies asleep in your lap. You will make great friends. You will eat delicious foods you haven't tried yet. You will be able to look at a view from a high place and not assess the likelihood of dying from falling. There are books you haven't read yet that will enrich you. Films you will watch while eating extra large buckets of popcorn. And you will dance and laugh and have sex and go for runs by the river and have late night conversations and laugh until it hurts. Life is waiting for you. You might be stuck here for a while, but the world isn't going anywhere. Hang on in there if you can. Life is always worth it. Love. We are essentially alone. There is no getting around this fact, even if we try to forget it a lot of the time. When we are ill, there is no escape from this truth. Pain of any kind is a very isolating experience. My back is playing up right now. I am writing this with my legs up against a wall, and my back lying flat on a sofa. If I sit up normally, hunched over a notepad or a laptop in the classic writer position, my lower back begins to hurt. It doesn't really help me to know when the pain flares up again that millions of other people also suffer from back problems. So why do we bother with love? No matter how much we love someone, we are never going to make them, or ourselves, free of pain. Well, let me tell you something. Something that sounds bland and drippy to the untrained eye, but which, I assure you, is something I believe entirely. Love saved me. Andrea. She saved me, her love for me and my love for her. Not just once either, repeatedly, over and over. We had been together 5 years by the time I fell ill. What had Andrea gained in that time since the night before her 19th birthday? A continued sense of financial insecurity? An inadequate, alcohol-impaired sex life? At university, our friends always considered us to be a happy couple. And we were, except for the other half of the time when we were an unhappy couple. The interesting thing was that we were fundamentally different people. Andrea liked lions and early nights, while I was a bad sleeper and a night owl. She had a strong work ethic, and I didn't. Not then, though depression strangely has given me one. She liked organization, and I was the most disorganized person she had met. Mixing us together was, in some ways, like mixing chlorine with ammonia. It was simply not a good idea. But I made her laugh, she said. I was fun. We liked to talk. Both of us, I suppose, were quite shy and private people in our own way. Andrea, particularly, was a social chameleon. This was a kind of kindness. She never could cope if someone felt awkward, and so always bent to meet them as much as she could. I think if I offered her anything, it was the chance to be herself. If, as Schopenhauer said, we forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people, then love, at its best, is a way to reclaim those lost parts of ourselves. That freedom we lost somewhere quite early in childhood. Maybe love is just about finding the person you can be your weird self with. I helped her be her, and she helped me be me. We did this through talking. In our first year together, we would very often stay up all night talking. The night would start with us going to the wine shop at the bottom of the sharp street in Hull, the street my student house was on, and buying a bottle of wine we couldn't afford, and would very often end with us watching breakfast TV on my old Hitachi, which required constant maneuvering of the aerial to see the picture. Then a year later, we had fun playing grown-ups, buying the River Cafe cookbook, and holding dinner parties at which we would serve up panzanella salads and expensive wines in our damp-infested student flat. Please do not think this was a perfect relationship. It wasn't. It still isn't. The time we spent living in Ibiza, particularly, now seems like one long argument. Just listen to this. Matt, wake up. What? Wake up, it's 9:30. So? I've got to be at the office at 10. It's a 45-minute drive. So, no one will know. It's Ibiza. You're being selfish. I'm being tired. You're hungover. You were drinking vodka lemon all night. Sorry for having a good time. You should try it. Fuck off. I'm getting in the car. What? You can't leave me in the villa all day. I'll be stranded in the middle of nowhere. There's no food. Just wait 10 minutes. I'm going. I'm just so fed up with you. Why? You're the one who wants to be here. My job is what keeps me here. It's why we're in this villa. You work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. They're exploiting you. They're still out clubbing, and no one's in the office till after 12. They value you because you are a maniac. You bend over backward for them and treat me like crap. Bye, Matt. Oh, fuck off. You're not really going, are you? You selfish cunt. Okay, I'm getting ready. Fuck. But the arguments were surface stuff. If you go deep enough under a tidal wave, the water is still. That is what we were like. In a way, we argued because we knew it would have no fundamental impact. When you could be yourself around someone, you project your dissatisfied self outward. And in Ibiza, I was that. I was not happy, and part of my personality was this. When I was unhappy, I tried to drown myself in pleasure. I was, to use the most therapy of terms, in denial. I was denying my unhappiness, even as I was being a touchy hungover boyfriend. There was never a single moment, though, where I would have said, or felt, that I didn't love her. I loved her totally. Friendship love and love, philia and eros. I always had done, though of the two, that deep and total friendship love turns out to be the most important. When the depression hit, Andrea was there for me. She'd be kind to me and cross with me in all the right ways. She was someone I could talk to, someone I could say anything to. Being with her was basically being with an outer version of myself. The force and fury she'd once only displayed in arguments, she now used to steer me better. She accompanied me on trips to doctors. She encouraged me to ring the right helplines. She got us to move into our own place. She encouraged me to read, to write. She earned us money. She gave us time. She handled all the organizational side of my life, the stuff you need to do to take over. She filled in the blanks that worry and darkness had left in its wake. She was my mind double, my life sitter, my literal other half when half of me had gone. She covered for me, waiting patiently like a war wife during my absence from myself. How to be there for someone with depression or anxiety. Number 1, know that you are needed and appreciated, even if it seems you are not. Number 2, listen. Number 3, never say, pull yourself together, or cheer up, unless you're also going to provide detailed, foolproof instructions. Tough love doesn't work. Turns out that just good old love is enough. Number 4, appreciate that it is an illness. Things will be said that aren't meant. Number 5, educate yourself. Understand, above all, that what might seem easy to you, going to a shop, for instance, might be an impossible challenge for a depressive. Number 6, don't take anything personally, any more than you would take suffering with the flu or chronic fatigue syndrome or arthritis personally. None of this is your fault. Number 7, be patient. Understand it isn't going to be easy. Depression ebbs and flows and moves up and down. It doesn't stay still. Do not take one happy/bad moment as proof of recovery/relapse. Play the long game. Number 8, meet them where they are. Ask what you can do. The main thing you can do is just be there. Number 9, relieve any work/life pressure if that is doable. Number 10, where possible, don't make the depressive feel weirder than they already feel. 3 days on the sofa, haven't opened the curtains, crying over difficult decisions like which pair of socks to wear? So what? No biggie. There is no standard normal. Normal is subjective. There are 7 billion versions of normal on this planet. An inconsequential moment. It came. The moment I was waiting for. Sometime in April 2000. It was totally inconsequential. In fact, there is not much to write about. That was the whole point. It was a moment of nothingness, of absent-mindedness, of spending almost 10 seconds awake, but not actively thinking of my depression or anxiety. I was thinking about work, about trying to get an article published in a newspaper. It wasn't a happy thought, but a neutral one. But it was a break in the clouds, a sign that the sun was still there, somewhere. It was over not much after it began, but when those clouds came back, there was hope. There would be a time when those painless seconds would become minutes and hours and maybe even days. Things that have happened to me that have generated more sympathy than depression. Having tinnitus, scalding my hand on an oven, and having to have my hand in a strange ointment-filled glove for a week. Accidentally setting my leg on fire. Losing a job. Breaking a toe. Being in debt. Having a river flood our nice new house, causing £10,000 worth of damage. Bad Amazon reviews. Getting the norovirus. Having to be circumcised when I was 11. Lower back pain. Having a blackboard fall on me. Irritable bowel syndrome. Being a street away from a terrorist attack. Eczema. Living in hole in January. Relationship breakups. Working in a cabbage packing warehouse. Working in media sales. Okay, that came close. Consuming a poisoned prawn. 3-day migraines. Life on Earth to an alien. It's hard to explain depression to people who haven't suffered from it. It is like explaining life on Earth to an alien. The reference points just aren't there. You have to resort to metaphors. You are trapped in a tunnel. You are at the bottom of the ocean. You are on fire. The main thing is the intensity of it. It does not fit within the normal spectrum of emotions. When you are in it, you are really in it. You can't step outside it without stepping outside of life, because it is life. It is your life. Every single thing you experience is filtered through it. Consequently, it magnifies everything. At its most extreme, things that an everyday normal person would hardly notice have overwhelming effects. The sun sinks behind a cloud, and you feel that slight change in weather as if a friend has died. You feel the difference between inside and outside as a baby feels the difference between womb and world. You swallow an ibuprofen, and your neurotic brain acts like it has taken an overdose of methamphetamine. Depression for me wasn't a dulling, but a sharpening and intensifying, as though I had been living my life in a shell, and now the shell wasn't there. It was total exposure. A red, raw, naked mind. A skinned personality. A brain in a jar full of the acid that is experience. What I didn't realize at the time, what would have seemed incomprehensible to me, was that the state of mind would end up having positive effects as well as negative effects. I'm not talking about all that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger stuff. No, that's simply not true. What doesn't kill you very often makes you weaker. What doesn't kill you can leave you limping for the rest of your days. What doesn't kill you can make you scared to leave your house, or even your bedroom, and have you trembling or mumbling incoherently, or leaning with your head on a window pane, wishing you could return to the time before the thing that didn't kill you. No, this isn't a question of strength. Not the stoic, get on with stuff without thinking too much kind of strength anyway. It's more of a zooming in, that sharpening, that switch from the prosaic to the poetic. You know, before the age of 24, I hadn't known how bad things could feel, but I hadn't realized how good they could feel either. That shell might be protecting you, but it's also stopping you feeling the full force of that good stuff. Depression might be a hell of a price to pay for waking up to life, and while it is on top of you, it is one thing that could never seem worth paying. Clouds with silver linings are still clouds, but it is quite therapeutic to know that pleasure doesn't just help compensate for pain. It can actually grow out of it. White space. We spent 3 long months at my parents' house, then spent the rest of that winter in a cheap flat in a student area of Leeds while Andrea did freelance PR work and I tried not to go mad. But from, I suppose, April 2000, that good stuff started to become available. The bad stuff was still there. At the start, the bad stuff was there most of the time. The good stuff probably amounted to about 0.0001% of that April. The good stuff was just warm sunshine on my face as Andrea and I walked from our flat in the suburbs to the city center. It lasted as long as the sunshine was there, and then it disappeared. But from that point on, I knew it could be assessed. I knew life was available to me again. And so in May, 0.0001% became about 0.1%. I was rising. Then at the start of June, we moved to a flat in the city center. The thing I liked about it was the light. I liked that the walls were white and that the unnatural laminated floor mimicked the blondest wood and that the square modern windows made up most of the walls and that the low-grade sofa the landlord had put in was turquoise. Of course, it was still England. It was still Yorkshire. Light was severely rationed. But this was as good as it got on our budget, or just above our budget, and it was certainly better than the student flat with its burgundy carpets and its brown kitchen. Turquoise sofa beat turquoise mold. Light was everything. Sunshine, windows with the blinds open. Pages with short chapters and lots of white space in short paragraphs. Light was everything. But so, increasingly, were books. I read and read and read with an intensity I'd never really known before. I mean, I'd always considered myself to be a person who liked books, but there is a difference between liking books and needing them. I needed books. They weren't a luxury good during that time in my life. They were a Class A addictive substance. I'd have gladly got into serious debt to read. Indeed, I did. I think I read more books in those 6 months than I had done during 5 years of university education, and I'd certainly fallen deeper into the worlds conjured on the page. There is this idea that you either read to escape or you read to find yourself. I don't really see the difference. We find ourselves through the process of escaping. It is not where we are, but where we want to go, and all that. Is there a way out of the mind? Sylvia Plath famously asked. I had been interested in this question, what it meant, what the answers might be, ever since I had come across it as a teenager in a book of quotations. If there is a way out, a way that isn't death itself, then the exit route is through words. But rather than leave the mind entirely, words help us leave a mind and give us the building blocks to build another one. similar but better, nearby to the old one, but with firmer foundations and very often a better view. The object of art is to give life a shape, said Shakespeare. And my life and my mess of a mind needed shape. I had lost the plot. There was no linear narrative of me. There was just mess and chaos. So yes, I loved external narratives for the hope they offered. Films, TV dramas, and most of all books. They were, in and of themselves, reasons to stay alive. Every book written is a product of a human mind in a particular state. Add all the books together, and you get the end sum of humanity. Every time I read a great book, I felt I was reading a kind of map, a treasure map, and the treasure I was being directed to was an actual fact myself. But each map was incomplete, and I would only locate the treasure if I read all the books, and so the process of finding my best self was an endless quest. And books themselves seemed to me to reflect this idea, which is why the plot of every book ever can be boiled down to someone is looking for something. One cliché attached to bookish people is that they are lonely, but for me, books were my way out of being lonely. If you are the type of person who thinks too much about stuff, then there is nothing lonelier in the world than being surrounded by a load of people on a different wavelength. In my deepest state of depression, I had felt stuck. I felt trapped in quicksand. As a kid, that had been my most common nightmare. Books were about movement. They were about quests and journeys. Beginnings and middles and ends, even if not in that order. They were about new chapters and leaving old ones behind. And because it was only a few months before I had lost the point of words and stories and even language, I was determined never to feel like that again. I fed and I fed and I fed. I used to sit with the bedside lamp on, reading for about 2 hours after Andrea had gone to sleep, until my eyes were dry and sore, always seeking and never quite finding, but with that feeling of being tantalizingly close.